From Kalshi.com. Yo, check this out. Will Trump be impeached? Now, there was a big spike a moment ago for, this is actually, looks like a day ago. It was at 46% by the end of his term, or by the beginning of 28.
This is in reaction to the H-1B thing?
I think this is just everything in general. Right now, there is a 44% projection on the Kalshi prediction market that Trump will be impeached before January of 2028. 11% says before 27, 8% before 26, and I don't know why there's, June of 26 or January of 26. So it actually jumped up to 54, I believe, at one point.
I don't know. They already swung at him twice and missed with impeachment. It'd be
I know, but I think
amazing
it's
if they tried again.
It'll derail anything the administration tries to do, and that's good enough for the Democrats.
I think it's going to happen.
It looks like, can you scroll down a little bit to see those numbers? Yeah, how it goes 4, no, just back up, 4, 8, 11. It seems like people are just throwing it out there like they have no idea, and they're like, yeah, just take the 44, the latest date that they have to offer, and we'll say yeah, because maybe we'll make money on it. But I don't see any reason why he would be impeached.
Because okay, so
palling around with Al-Qaeda in the Oval Office, maybe?
What was that?
Palling around with Al-Qaeda in the Oval Office?
What a great opportunity to explain to people you have not been paying attention this past week.
Oh, yeah, I've been in Texas doing a graphene documentary.
Indeed. Donald Trump has he has a base. And the people who hate Donald Trump hate him irrationally, and they'll impeach him for any reason. Trump's only hope is that he wins the midterms by promising things to his base. Unfortunately, Trump recently came out and said he's going to do more H-1Bs, and he's going to bring in 600,000 Chinese students on visas.
So this is a reaction to the midterm.
Has basically been like, I'm done. Gen Z, largely in the polls, has basically said, I'm done. And Gen Z is now approaching 28 years old, and by the midterms, they'll be nearing 30. This is a key demo that Trump needs. Isn't that crazy? 30-year-old Gen Z. Trump needs them, and they're saying, Trump, you've betrayed us. So,
old.
With that, Democrats are like, well, we'll vote against Trump no matter what. Now you've got younger right-leaning individuals saying, I ain't going to vote for Trump. Good luck. Yep. So Trump is now at risk of losing in the midterms. I got to be honest.
Are we cooked, chat?
The Epstein stuff is a huge disappointment, a miserable failure. The failures to stop the Ukraine war, I'm not blaming Trump on all of this. Some things you just can't do. But when he came out and said there's no talent in America, big mistake. He shouldn't have said it. That was a bad way to say it. But to say he's going to bring in the H-1B, Scott Bessent said we're going to temporarily bring them in. That's a lie. And to say he's going to bring in these Chinese workers, you might as well just say your options are the Democrats, Joe Biden, or communism. Pick one. And people are going to be like, I'm not going to vote for it. And this is really sad. You know why? Because before Charlie Kirk was killed, my prediction was the right was on track swimmingly to such a degree that the Democrats would go nuts and there would be mass violence over the summer because of the successes we are seeing from the GOP. J.D. Vance has been doing a bang-up job. Now with this past week, it has been an inversion almost. It's been really bad. Trump's blunders. The Epstein thing is immaterial in my opinion. Disappointment, but largely immaterial. But one of the things...
It's a big promise to the American people that we are going to get to the bottom of this. You're going to find out everyone who was involved in this, and they're going to be held accountable for this. You're talking about abusing children, man. Give us the truth, goddammit. What is this?
Trump didn't campaign on it.
Prior to the election.
He didn't campaign on it, but when asked about it...
though, you know.
They didn't campaign on it. When asked about it, they did say yes, because what are they going to say? No.
Right.
But I would say one of the big issues right now is for a lot of young people, we can pull up, I'll pull up one of these videos in a bit where the guy's screaming, the Gen Z guy, about how he can't find a job. His job doesn't pay him enough. And then he says, but they got money for wars. And when Donald Trump in 1 week says H-1Bs, Chinese visas, and then writes a letter saying, please pardon Netanyahu, you've got American people saying...
And meets with Giuliani, the Al-Qaeda guy in the Oval Office.
And the American people are saying, when are you going to focus on what we've been asking you to do? So you're basically getting Joe Biden 2.0 or communism. Pick one. That's how a lot of people are feeling.
He always was a Democrat until he ran as pretend Pat Buchanan. I mean, let's get And has he ever even read Pat at antiwar.com/Pat? No.
Pat Buchanan? You got to stuff it in it to work?
I don't.
30 years worth of Pat Buchanan's articles at antiwar.com.
Retired before Inauguration Day 2017. That was already gone by the time the campaign was over.
Yeah.
So you've got. I'm curious about this. Right now, there's a big debate. Ben Shapiro was on stage with Megyn Kelly, and he was saying, Candace Owen, what she's doing is evil, and you got to speak out against it. And Megyn Kelly was like, don't look at me. And then Megyn Kelly came out later saying, I'm going to defend Candace. She never said Erica Kirk was involved. What had happened was Ben Shapiro said something to the effect of, Candace said that Erica was involved or something.
Oh, not even something like that. He said that. He said that Candace said that Erica Kirk killed him or was in on
it. Yeah, because Candace
declarative statement. And Megyn Kelly's like, what?
Because Candace tweeted, Erica knows everything. Or Erica knew, or I think she said Erica knew everything. Which is an implication, of course, that if you're insinuating Turning Point USA was in on it and Erica knew what was going on, then she was either standing by to let it happen or was a part of that.
She would be an accessory if there was a plot and she knew about it.
I actually saw Candace address this on her show, and she didn't address that tweet, though, so I don't know about that. But she just said that she absolutely never said that, and she had said on her show before, and I did see her say this on her show before, that there are two people in the world that can make her give up her quest on this story, and that is her husband or Erica Kirk. And if Erica Kirk were to even just send her an email and politely request that she back down and be quiet, that she would respect that 100%. That doesn't sound like she's accusing her at all.
3 days afterwards, she says, Netanyahu, 3 days after Charlie was murdered, she says, Netanyahu also spoke about how he called Charlie 2 weeks ago to invite him to Israel. That phone call is lacking context. He should provide the proper context of what and who inspired him to make that call and exactly how Charlie replied to the invite. Everyday Man says, surely his wife knew all this. She'd have been there when he was feeling pressured and upset. She would know exactly what was going on. And Candace said, Erica knows everything.
Yeah, but you see here, they're not discussing his murder at all. They're discussing what the Israel lobby was saying about him and how they were saying how he was still loyal to them up to his dying day and how she was busting them, proving that that wasn't true. There was zero implication in her tweet there that she is saying that Erica knows anything about the murder of her husband. That is absolutely not the discussion they're having there.
Yeah, Ben Shapiro and then Candace Owens said on her show that TPUSA, it had to have been involved or an inside job.
Well, I don't know about that, but she did not say that about the man's wife for sure. And Shapiro's lying about that. That's straight up a lie. You can't even.
What I can tell in that tweet, what she's trying to communicate is like Erica was intimately familiar with his conversations and his work.
Yeah, that's right. They're talking about his feelings about Israel there, not talking about who took a shot at him. That is just
this is what the right has been concerned with doing for months now. It's just policing their own, canceling their own, throwing each other under the bus.
Because of Israel.
Anything that we voted for.
They would go backwards.
Hey, you guys want to let the video play?
Which would be in the fall. They would go backwards. You don't instantly get approved for an event at Turning Point USA. It reeks of an inside job. That is how I feel. And the more that we learn about the story, the little changes that happen, the inexplicable things that we're learning, it becomes clearer and clearer that somehow at some layer, at some stage, Turning Point USA is involved because they're giving us no clarity. Why? Are you?
I see. They're not giving us clarity, therefore they're involved.
I disagree with that. He was absolutely lying on her that she had slandered his
right,
widow
and that's
that
not even
way.
the point. And this is what I just can't stand about all of this is that Ben Shapiro said this. Megyn Kelly gave a non-committal response. Later then came out and said Candace never said Erica was involved. And this is the retardation of the modern conservative movement that I am completely uninterested in being involved in.
Yeah, dude, because eventually that's going to be AI. And then
I don't care about that. Candace Owens is saying a bunch of dumb, retarded shit, and it's stupid. But she's allowed to say whatever she wants. I don't care. Tucker can interview whoever he wants. Candace can say whatever she wants on her show. I don't care. But this is not news. This is not policy. And if this is what the right has to offer going into 2026, count me out. I don't want to be involved in this obsession over true crime drama Before Charlie Kirk was murdered, we are on track for something. Afterwards, we're divided behind Candace's e-girl true crime drama for female listeners who want to listen to like Murder, She Wrote over Charlie Kirk's murder and imply that Turning Point was somehow involved. Turning Point's doing nothing but fanning the flames. I'm so uninterested in all of this. Donald Trump coming out offering H-1Bs and Chinese visas, the rights bickering over conspiracy drama. We don't know what happened with Charlie Kirk. The TPUSA guys are saying clearly what the FBI is presenting seems to make the most sense. Then you've got this other faction that are like Israel, and they're screaming at the top of their lungs like retards. And I'm just like, yeah, I don't care. I'm done. I don't want to have anything to do with this psychobabble garbage across the board in every facet. You come to me and talk to me about tax policy, border policy, military policy, and I'm going to say, here's what we need to be doing to make sure young people can buy houses and have kids. But instead, all I'm seeing from the right over and over again is like, now there's more drama with Candace. And I'm like, that's what you're interested in, guys? I'm going to go fishing. I don't care about this. Yeah. And if Donald Trump is going to come out and go on TV and say, we're going to do H-1Bs, and Scott Bessent's going to say we're going to do H-1Bs, I'm like, see you later, buddy. I got a poker game to attend to, and I'm going to make videos about Minecraft or something.
Look, it's always like this. It's tragic, but
it wasn't before Charlie died. It wasn't.
Well, yeah.
The amount of chaos that has erupted following the assassination of Charlie Kirk is just terribly sad.
Well, and it's a great crack up. You mentioned it. It's the great crack up over Israel, too. What do they hate about Tucker Carlson? They hate that he's not a Nazi. They call him a Nazi all day because he's essentially a center-right, moderate, conservative, and moral and decent guy who's turned against Zionism. And so they just cannot have that because, like, Tim, I know for you, when this Israel stuff broke out 2 years ago and you saw all of these woke communist protesters who were bad on the last 10 things in a row that you hated so much, and they're now against Israel, you're like, well, you don't want those cooties, man. Well, Tucker Carlson is saying to you that, hey, Tim, you don't have to move left to give
I don't
up
care
on
about
Israel or whatever.
I don't care about Israel at all.
Well, but look, our country is implemented. It's not that it doesn't matter. It's not like it's Myanmar versus Pango here. This is America is implicated in Israel's wars. Americans die in blowback terrorist attacks because of Israel's foreign policies, and we're completely implicated in this entirely. So if you don't care about it, you have to be against it.
I think that we're trying to say, like, we're not interested in the conversation over whether Tucker Carlson is or isn't a Nazi. We would actually like to talk about the substance of the issue.
But that's the point, is that he's not talking about Nazism. Tucker is talking about the problem of Israel and their influence in this country.
I don't care about Tucker Carlson debating Nick Fuentes or discussing things with Nick Fuentes. It's meaningless. I don't care if Candace Owens wants to do a true crime show. I don't care. The point I'm making is that this has become the top level of the right. The right's debate right now is not over whether or not our policy is effective or what we are going to be doing moving into a midterm year. The conversation on the right is, can you believe what Candace is saying about Turning Point? And I'm just sitting there being like, I don't care. I don't care that Tucker sat down with Nick. I don't care about what Nick's opinions are. I don't care about Tucker's opinion. They were allowed to have opinions on whatever they wanted, and so is Candace. I am annoyed that this is the drama that everyone's engaged in. I will say it's disappointing that Candace went from talking about news to talking about conspiratorial drama. Sure. And that's whatever. They're allowed to talk about whatever they want, and I'm not going to tell them not to do it. I will just say this. It is the utmost of demoralization when I go on to look up the news, and it's Israel and the Jews, and Turning Point killed Charlie. And I'm sitting here being like, didn't they just say that they were not, like, the airlines are shutting down? Can I talk about that stuff? AI is taking over. What about the H-1Bs and the Chinese visas?
Yeah.
All that stuff's really important. I mean, they're prepping an invasion of Venezuela right now.
That's exactly what Matt Walsh was saying just a couple of weeks ago, and people on the right attacked him for exactly what you're saying right now. You're echoing his point, which is,
well, I like Matt Walsh.
Let's stop canceling each other, throwing each other under the bus, and cannibalizing our own movement and actually fight the left. And people then just tried to cancel him over saying that.
Particularly when, like, our biggest problems, the problems that everybody feels are, and I know I'm going to get beat up from the chat for this, but it's kitchen table stuff. It's the fact that groceries are expensive. It's the fact that people can't afford things. And you have got to get that taken care of for the American people, because that's what you're there for. There is a very vocal and dedicated minority that cares very, very deeply about the stuff that we're talking about, but they are a minority. The people that only check into politics once in a while and only check into politics when the grocery bill looks outrageous, those people are the ones that are going to they're gone. They're mobile.
And it's the Israel psychobabble as a large reason why Trump is going to lose. And, you know, I'll just put it this way. Israel's going to win everything. They're going to win everything because for one, well, I'll split the baby on this one. The anti-Israel side is annoying, and the pro-Israel side can't make an effective argument to save themselves. But I can tell you this. When I go to the grocery store, ain't nobody sitting outside being like, Israel, Tim. They're going, why was my milk $5? And then I go online, and what do I see? Tucker Carlson was talking to Nick Fuentes. I don't care. I don't care if you are complaining about Israel or you support Israel. The issue at hand needs to be, why is Trump bringing in more H-1Bs? But this isn't the conversation. And so I just look at it like, okay, I'll put it this way. I am frustrated because we need to win. We need to win this. And we're not going to, because the right is dejected. The left is a cult, and that's always been their advantage. And it's unfortunate, but that's going to do well for them moving forward. It doesn't matter what's true, because they'll march in lockstep with each other no matter what. The right is going to start bickering over esoteric, garbled nonsense the average American doesn't care about. And, you know, I think the sad reality is what we're seeing from this is that Charlie was holding this together more than anyone realized. And it's a combination of, without his leadership, what ends up happening, and the exploitation of his absence, what ends up happening.
Yeah. Charlie was unique in that he could call Tucker, he could call Donald Trump, he could call basically anybody, because he kept his relationships with everybody at a point where he could basically reach out and say, look, hey, let's talk about this. And it shows, it showed in the way that he, you know, engaged with the left.
He set a great example in that way. He really did.
And it's a terrible loss that he's gone. But we need more people to try to embody that kind of attitude, not only towards the left, but specifically now towards people that are also on the right.
I'm going to go full conspiratard as far as I can. I actually have been thinking that watching all of this, I'm like, you know, it can't be that the right is this dumb. You know, I don't know. What I can say is I think the AI is taken over already. And I'm wondering if there's actually even a path forward in regards to what we're dealing with. I'll put it this way. Either the AI is already taken over, or the development they're doing towards AI can't be stopped by the likes of us, in which case, how do you win, and can you? And I don't think that you can.
You have to be nonpartisan. If you're partisan,
it's not about partisan. This is completely immaterial.
This is why they're fighting on the right, because they think they're on the right. They think they have an enemy, and when there's no enemy,
once again, jumping in without listening to the point that I'm making.
Sorry to interrupt.
We are witnessing the massive expansion of data centers, the purchasing of lands for record amounts, quiet sales happening, and one theory, which is a bit more conspiratorial, is that if military technology outpaces civilian by 10 to 20 years, that would imply that the timeline for when AI is expected to actually take over our governmental infrastructure would be advanced by 10 to 20 years, which could put estimates around 2010, 2012 as to when a military AI would have already taken over. In which case, is all of this bickering just algorithmically generated so that we fight amongst each other while large swaths of land in Texas, Utah, and Virginia are purchased to create large black boxes with no lights inside of them to run the machine? Because that's literally happening right now, whether we care about anything politically. You go to the Northern Virginia, it's called the Data Corridor, and they're running 7 gigawatts of power into Northern Virginia, of which 5 gigawatts is unaccounted for.
Yep.
And this is the major intelligence hub for the CIA, NSA, et cetera.
And people can totally be manipulated, like you're saying. That algorithm, you just assume the algorithm is there to keep you there to generate ad revenue, but not necessarily. They could have other motives. Remember the Facebook experiments that they did in manipulating people's moods, see if they could make them happy, sad, anxious, whatever they want. And so it's all in the algorithm. All you got to do is turn that dial.
The reality is advertising works at scale. And if it didn't, Coca-Cola wouldn't be buying billboards. And that means you can be as smart as you want or think you're smart, like in my case, and think you're identifying that maybe these AI systems have already begun to pressure us so that it can expand itself quietly. I wonder why it is you've got these have you noticed these firms buying up residential properties 30% above market? It was a big story we covered a few years ago that people would go to buy a house, a couple, and they'd put in an offer for $300K in the bungalow, and then they'd say, we got an offer at $330. And they'd say, who put in $30K above market? A 10% above market. And turns out it was these big faceless firms buying up property. One thing that is very interesting is that in order to expand these data centers, you need 100 to 300 acres. But we don't parcel out land like this in these corridors. They're parceled out by the acre, sometimes 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Rarely do you see a 300-acre plot, which means companies are going to have to buy up individual acreage and bulldoze them and then create 300-acre campuses, which is then really interesting that quietly property is being bought up like crazy in the Northern Virginia data corridor. And no one pays attention to this stuff. And then I'm looking at the internet.
It's homes that they're buying up, single-family homes in the suburbs that they're buying for that land.
That's some really expensive land, right? God.
Yes, there was a record sale in Virginia, 96 acres at $615 million, $6.3 million per acre. We're 20 miles away from there, and where we're at goes for $50,000 an acre, and they sold $6.3 million per acre. We are in the transmission line for this, and property is selling like crazy. I'm talking about how bungalows are going for $500,000 right now. It's because some corporate force is buying every property up above market, and it is insane and makes no sense. And I'm looking at these patterns, and I'm thinking whether the AI took over or otherwise is immaterial. That's a silly and fun idea. Maybe it's true, but I don't know. Who knows? But the reality is we know Elon, Altman, Zuckerberg are dumping everything into building data centers. So there is a man-made intention behind this, and we are all arguing over Tucker interviewing somebody in Candace and Trump's visas, and the reality is in 10 years, there will be fields of gigantic black boxes. Imagine a building with no doors and windows, not an exaggeration. Some of these data centers are gigantic cubes with no lights inside of them. I'm not joking. You go in the building and there's no lights because they don't need them. It's a data center. And they're using large amounts of water to cool them off, and that's what they're building. And that's what our country is going to be in 10 to 20 years, and no one's paying attention to it. Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.